Kilted Gunsmith here. Look, first off, ignore the cat. She's just being very needy today. If she wasn't so good at catching mice, I wouldn't still have her with as needy as she's been past few months. Now, the whole purpose of this video. I have been tasked with mounting this, right? A Tell Sighting number 32 Mark 1 sight. This is a reproduction that the customer bought. And some of you are going to know exactly the rifle that it goes on, right? But for those of you that don't, this is a Enfield number 4 Mark 1 Star, right? So yeah, and it was made in Canada. It's a long branch, right? Now before people start coming at me, oh my God, you're going to ruin the rifle, blah, 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 it's going to destroy the value of it. Okay, look up some of these number 4 Mark 1 T, because that's what it's known as once has the telesight on it, is a T reproductions, okay? And then take that number and compare it to what these sell for as well. So, yeah. So that's what we're going to start doing. So anyways, I will switch the cameras around and go ahead and disassemble this thing and get started. Alright, so I've got her stripped down fairly well, right? I didn't want to remove the front sight, okay? I just didn't. There's a process with that, and there's no need for this job. So that means that the stock support band here will not come off, but everything else came off just fine. And then here in the receiver, of course, I left the safety, right? I left the sear, right? As well as the magazine, because once again, it's not going to get in the way. It's not going to bother anything, so on and so forth. So less work I have to do. But one thing I want to point out is just look how beautiful all of this is, right? Yeah. Like, I am actually either incredibly jealous because I need to take a little bit closer look, or this was redone very, very well, right? So, yeah. Anyways. Now, something else I want to talk about is there's a lot of people that sit here and say that the Lee Enfields are inaccurate as hell, blah, 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 so on and so forth. I've heard it a bunch. I used to actually competitively compete with one of these. So yeah, I've heard it all, right? And the reason that a lot of people think that these are inaccurate guns is because they'll have chopped sporterized stocks, right? Now, granted, there's a mountain of books out there that'll sit here and tell you how to accurize this, so on and so forth. So, yeah, but the big thing is the end of this muzzle, right? When it's in the stock, it should not have any flax, right? If that barrel wants to move, especially in the upward position, right? Then there's some issues there that need to be taken up between the gun and the stock itself. One of which is something very similar to this. This is just a brass shim that has been in there for God only knows how long. You can actually sit here and see, there's some corrosion built up on it, so we're going to clean it up before we put it back in the gun. But yeah, there's several things. Something else to also look at is headspace on these sometimes gets opened up because of corrosive ammo from back in the day, right? Now, the way that the British countered this, right, was very simple with their bolt, right? So these bolt heads, as you can see, just come unscrewed, okay? Ta-da! And it's got your extractor spring, and that's about it, and the pilot hole, okay? There's also an overgassed hole, right? But yeah, so this one, it's been marked on quite a bit. just with different inspections and that kind of thing. So I'm not able to tell. Oh, it's a number 2. Yeah, so it's got a 2. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. No, it's not. But right there behind the extractor is a number 2. Sometimes they'll put them up here on this flat part, but this time they didn't. They put it on over here. That's fine. So basically, if the headspace got grossly off, they would sit here and unscrew this bolt head, right? And if it was still in really good shape, they'd put it in a parts bin, right? If it was corroded, especially here on the face, looked bad, it would just get thrown away, and then they would grab the appropriate one that they needed, they would screw it back in, right? And be done. Now, something that you can look at is you see how it is overturned, right? So when it's in the gun, it runs just like this, and it can overturn. A lot of people don't realize that, okay? And I have actually seen where people have tried to reinsert the bolt just like this, and it mess up, right? But now, why is the reason for that? Okay, I'm about to show you. So, extractor head is up. I'm pushing the bolt forward. Now it's a cock-on close system, right? So I'm going to try to do this and stay in camera. But you'll notice on here on the side of the extractor there is this cutout, right? And you'll also notice here on the receiver there's a cutout that's about the same width. Right? And now push it in and close, right? Now what I've also seen people do, right, is they put this back in the gun, hold on, but not flip it down and try to leave it like this, right? Well, now it's not going any further, right? It's not going to. And they bring it to me going, hey, I bought this thing and it's broken. No, it's not. It's just been improperly put together. And then I'll sit here and teach them and show them and that kind of thing. I've also seen where people just lay it off here to the side, but it's not in that track. See, it's not in the track. It's just here off to the side. Now you can move the bolt, but it's still just, it won't lock in like it's supposed to, right? Because once again, it is not properly put together. So if you have one of these, don't ever feel stupid for screwing that up, because everybody does their first time, okay? Everybody. In fact, my number 4 Mark 1, mine's not a star, mine's just a standard Mark 1, I believe. I'll have to recheck. But it's the reason that I got into gunsmithing, right? So right off, the extractor here had actually broken while I was out with a bunch of friends shooting, and I had already moved across the state to be a police officer, and so I didn't really know anywhere to go, right? So I went to all the gun shops around, right, and talked to them and was like, look, I've already ordered the part, right, and the spring and everything. I just don't know how to do it, right? Because at that time, I didn't even know that these unscrewed. You see what I'm saying? I just thought this moved kind of freely, right? So they gave me some phone numbers to 2 places, both of which were over an hour and a half of drive from me. And I called them, and at both places, they were very short with me. And they finally said it would be several $100s and would take a year. And that was just unacceptable for me. So I wound up getting on a bunch of forums and that kind of thing, and actually met a wonderful guy who collects these and knows, you know, all the inner workings. He has books on it, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, he emailed me a scanned copy of the armorer's manual for this gun, right? And I was able to fix it myself. And I took it out to the range with those same buddies. And they were just absolutely flabbergasted on how well it was doing and that I was able to do it. And it kind of turned into, hey man, I've kind of got this old broken gun. All right, let me look at it. Right? Hey, can you fix this? Yeah, let me look at it. Then it turned into me getting phone calls from let's see, how did it usually go? The person I was talking to was the brother to the sister-in-law's third cousin's ex-wife, right? Second daughter's niece or some crap like that to someone that I work with, right? Yeah. And I started talking to my wife. We agreed to put me through gunsmithing school, and here we are now, several years later. So I am sorry, I'm taking up some time, but now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this off to the side, right over here, because we don't need that. We need this. Now, let me zoom you in a little bit. All right, so this is the side of the receiver that we're going to work on, all right? I'm going to go ahead and take these leather caps off, okay, just because I don't want to damage them. And the scope is going to fit right around in here, okay? And now why am I saying, excuse me, right around in here? Because I've still got to map it, because if you look, yeah, I can drill and tap a hole for this one, right into the receiver, right? It wouldn't be a smart thing, but I could. But this one's just dangling. It's not connected to anything. So how the hell is that supposed to work? Well, that's where this company, I forget which company he said he bought this from. I think he said it was a Sarco, but I could be wrong. But it came with everything, right? When I mean everything, I mean everything, right? So we've got screws, we've got taps, we've got drill bits, right? Man, that's a lot of screws for such a little bitty thing. Yeah, it is, but it's okay. Because we also have, come here, you two. All right, we have these, right? And if you sit here and look, this one's got a little claw cutout, right? If we flip this over, hey look, we got a little claw cutout here. And wouldn't you know it, those just marry up pretty daggone well. Well, we look at this one. It's got a screw hole, right? But it also has kind of a recess. Well, if you sit here and look down into this hole, it kind of matches up the same, right? So what we're actually doing is, rather than drilling 2 holes, we're going to be drilling a minimum of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Right. So here comes the question though. Where do these go on the receiver, right? Because I have sat here and searched and searched and searched, and I know how it's going to go. I'm going to get done with this video and post it, and 2 or 3 months from now, I'm going to have someone sit here and go, oh, well, I've actually got the template. All you do is print it out and lay it right over the top of this, and it already shows where the exact drill holes and everything else. But unfortunately, I don't have that now, right? So what I have honestly done is I have dug deep into the depths of the internet and books that I have on this subject, right? On just these No4 Mk1 Ts. Because my question was this. I know it's got to sit somewhere right around in here, right? Or does it need to sit in here? Or does it need to sit up here? You see what I'm saying? So granted, we're only talking about 1/4 of an inch, right? But that's a lot, okay? Now, is 90% of people going to realize that it's, oh my God, it's 1/8 of an inch too far forward? No. But there are going to be people who are going to notice it, and so I want to make sure that it is right. Right? Right. Correct. Kinda. Right? Yes. Right? Now, some of you might be sitting here asking yourself, Kilted, this is not threaded. Right? This right here. And that's because you're absolutely right. We will have to drill a 6th hole, but that's why we also have this bigger tap. Right? So, yeah. Now these taps, just looking at them, I don't like them. I can definitely tell that they're cheaply made. But I might use them, and I might just use my own. I haven't determined yet. So yeah, I'll actually start knowing once I actually start cutting. But then it's got our drill bits for us, right? So this drill bit would be perfect for the little holes, okay? And then this drill bit is perfect for this big hole, right? Awesome. Then we got all these little screws, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 screws, but only 5 slots. So these two are different, so I'm going to assume that they do something different. Alright, so now comes the part that I know a lot of people are going to sit here and start screaming and yelling, and that's not how you do it, so on and so forth. And to be honest, I don't care, okay? Because this is the way that I do a lot of these, and they always come out pretty damn good, if not perfect, right? So what I've done is, since this bracket is threaded for the actual screw, what I did was just screw it on, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of lay it up here, right? Which, granted, I have to keep this on the side so that y'all can see it. But when I actually do the project, this is going to be in a vise, tilted up the correct way so I can mount this. But what's about to happen is I'm going to get this placement, right, exactly where I want it, right? And then I'm going to come in with some super glue. Oh my God, he's using super glue on guns. Yes. Because what that's going to do is going to hold this well enough, okay, that I can then sit here and figure out where this one needs to go. How do I figure where this one needs to go? Well, that's pretty daggone simple. Once this is super glued on, I'm going to unscrew this so that I can put this one on, right, and find out where it sits after screwing this one back in, seeing where it sits, super glue it in, okay, to where also the top of the scope is flush, because I don't know how well I can show it here, but I can move this without moving the actual bracket, right? It moved a little bit there, but you kind of get my idea, my purpose, right? So once I get this perfectly leveled, right, and I actually have these little Wheeler sight levels. I love these things. They are small, they are compact, and they are wonderful, right? And with this being all metal body, and this has a magnet on the bottom of it, yeah, makes life so much easier. But once I get that super glued and this one super glued, then I'll come back and show you where all the placement is at. Then I'm going to mark my holes, right? Then I will remove these brackets so I can then thread or drill and thread. I'm not going to be drilling through these brackets, okay? So don't worry about that. Well, how are you going to get the super glue off? Acetone. Right? That's what's in nail polish remover. It works great. Several people are going to sit here and get in the comments and say, oh, gasoline. Gasoline is too freaking expensive for me to waste on this. Acetone, I buy it in bulk. It's fairly cheap that way. Okay, so we've got that done, right? You can sit here and see there's a buildup of, super glue down there and here on the sides, right? But once again, it doesn't matter. All of this is going to be cleaned up, right? I'm going to be mounting and dismounting this scope probably 10 more times, right? But just to kind of show you how it is, once again, it's going to be hard in this situation here, so I can get everything on camera. So I'm not going to tighten everything down. I'm just going to kind of set it on here and rotate it up, just like that, okay? But this is fairly flat, right? And now what do you mean by fairly flat, Zach? This needs to be as, you know, seamless as possible. And it is, okay? There is no way to get absolute perfection on level, okay? There's not. I don't care what anybody says. Talking in the terms of, you know, everything, absolute perfect does not exist. That's why on all of these little bubble gauges, if you actually look, the lines that sit here and say level and the bubble is just a little bit smaller than the distance between those two lines, right? So there's a room of error, right? So yeah. So now the fun part begins, and the part to where I cannot go back, right? Come on. Come on, there we go. That is center punching all 6 of these holes, right? All 6. And then starting the process of tapping them. Now, I'm going to stop right here on this project, because I also, in the process of doing this, had a customer come in with some stuff that's a fairly quick, easy fix. So it's going to be done by the end of today. So I'm not going to work on this. I'm going to go after the fast money right fast, right? So yeah, stick around and I will show you what it looks like after having everything. Well, I'll mark the holes first, right? And then I'll come back and show you how to remove super glue from all of this. All right, so I've got everything, you know, once again, it's super glued in. And I just took a, you know, center punch, right? I sat here and ground it a little bit so it actually fit in these grooves a little tighter, right? And took my hammer and just, right, or just like that, right? Now, some people are going to ask, well, why don't you use something like this, a center punch, right? And I have in the past, but what I don't like is, and I'm going to try to show this, is you see it wobbles around in there. Oh, well, you just got to hold it right in the right spot. Yeah, but they work. I prefer this, right? Now, some of you were sitting here asking about how am I going to get the super glue off the gun? You know, how am I going to take these off to drill it? Oddly enough, when I hit this last hole, yeah, right? But I've got my 3 marks, which it's not going to show up. Well, that one kind of does, right there, right? Then I've got another one here and another one here, right? Right. So I will spray that down with some acetone and clean everything up. So I've got my acetone, I've got me a little straight edge here, right? You don't need to soak it, just not yay much. And then you can just sit here and come along and scratch all of it right off. Be sure not to scratch your finish, right? Because granted, this is going to be hidden, right, with the part. But still, someone's going to take this part off at some point in time. And if you scratch the piss out of all of this, you're sitting here showing your inexperience, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, yeah. Now, some of you are also going to sit here and complain about flash rusting and that kind of thing. I don't have to worry about that, because I'm sitting right here on top of it. And when I get done with both of these, I'm going to sit here and wipe everything down with oil. I'm just going to take a paper towel. Rinse, repeat, right? Okay, so before I sit here and show you this Enfield No4 Mk1 Star, because I've gotten everything drilled and tapped, got the scope mounted, all that fun stuff, I want to sit and talk about the tools and everything that come with these, the screws that come with these, so on and so forth. So right off the bat, the drill bits that come with this kit for you to be able to do, they say, right at home, that kind of thing, are garbage, okay? Like 110% garbage. So what I did was I went out to my supplier. Now understand, as always, this is not a paid spokesman, or I'm not getting paid to say this. But this is the company, right? Drill Bit Warehouse, okay? We're just a little bit more twisted. There's their phone number down there. And here's their back, right? Because there's a coupon code, right? Best for less. And when you go to them, what you are going to buy is some of these carbide drill bits. Now, for those of you who have never sat here and bought carbide drill bits, this is it. It is very simple. 2 flutes, solid carbide, decent tip on it, right? With these carbide drill bits, it went through like absolute butter, okay? I used at first the ones that came with the kit, right? Because nothing was really marked. It's saying, hey, how big these drill bits are. Now, granted, I could have measured it and all that fun stuff and figured that out, and that's what I wound up doing. But I went, surely, if they sell a kit and they only send 1 drill bit, surely it'll be strong enough to drill through everything. No, it made it through 1 hole. That's it, okay? So then I got those carbides because I didn't have a carbide drill the proper size. So yeah. Now the next one is the taps. Once again, the taps aren't really marked, and I had a hell of a time trying to figure out what thread pitch it was, right? And still couldn't really figure it out exactly. I'm pretty sure they're metric, and I don't do a lot of metric. My brain works in imperial. It's what I grew up on. It's what I learned on. It's what I am, right? So I was able to use their taps, but you have to move extremely slowly. So with most taps, you're able to turn the tap, you know, 1/8 or 1/4 of a turn, then back it off, then another 1/8, 1/4 of a turn, back it off, so on and so forth. No, this one was really, right? So it would take me like ½ hour per to get it done. So with that being said, if I ever did another one of these, I would probably change the thread pitch. That's me personally, especially when you get to the screws, right? So you see the screws here, yeah, it wore off some paint screwing it in, right? That's not uncommon, but what is uncommon is you can sit here and see that screw head doesn't look right. That's because it broke off, right? It broke off. And I'm not sitting here just torquing down as hard as I can on it, right? But yeah, it snapped right off. And it didn't do it to one of them. It did it to two of them. So here's the other one, right? Because this just shattered like glass. It really and truly did, right? And both of them just about in the same spot. So that meant I had to sit here and spend quite a bit of time figuring out a thread pitch that was close enough on my lathe and turn 2 new screws, right? So yeah, there's that. If you don't have that option, then I'm so sorry, because I've reached out to several companies who manufacture these. I reached out to the company that this guy said he ordered it from and asked about getting 2 replacement screws. They said they didn't have any, that all of them are in kits. I asked them thread pitches and everything else. We don't know. Okay. But without further ado, let's take a look at this rifle. All right, here it is, right? Now, it's not going to show up in the video. Well, there it goes. That middle screw there at the front, you see that's one of the ones that I had to replace, right? So I just took a oversized screw that I had, turned it on the lathe and flattened the top. I've got to re-blue it, right? Let's take this scope off. Now this is what I absolutely love about this scope system, is you just loosen up these 2 big knurled knobs and get them unscrewed. There we go. And it comes right off. Now, on the actual T's, the rear sight is different, okay? They just have a different setup for this, okay? So the standard sight that's on there isn't going to work because it impedes with the scope. Now, this customer said, honestly, once the scope is mounted, he is never going to touch it again, right? Once it gets sighted in and everything else, he's never going to take it off, so he's not worried about it. But I went ahead and bagged all this up for him to take with him, right? So, yeah. Then you see screws went all the way through, so that meant they had to be polished and everything else inside. That way your bolt, take the safety off, kilted. That way the bolt still moves nice, smooth, and freely, right? And yeah, and you can now see here on the back, I can angle this right. This is another one of the screws that I had to make that I'm going to re-blue, okay? So yeah, this has like a blued Parkerized thing on it. It's not really Park, it's not really blue. I don't know what it is, but I cannot replicate that finish that are on these mounts, so it's just going to get some bluing put on it. So yeah, this is the reason for cold blue, okay? Cold blue is not for an entire gun. I don't care what anybody says. Don't ever cold blue an entire gun, okay? And to remount the scope is just as easy as taking it off. Now, the one thing I will point out is you see there's a step here, right? That step actually does coincide with the inner diameter of that front screw post. So you just gotta line it up. And I just give them both a little bit of a torque until I know both are seated, and then I just go back and forth to one another and get them tight. Now, some of you might ask, what's going to keep those from getting unscrewed, in firing? If you look really closely in between the knob and the actual scope ring bases, you'll actually see a couple of little slots. What that is actually a small spring, right? So when you torque these down, you don't need to go after them with a pair of vice grips, right? You torque it down snug, and that spring is going to act like a split washer or a crush washer or something along those lines, and will help keep this from spinning back off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up just a couple of rounds and take it out to shoot this. Now before I do that though, let me go grab the tool to kind of show y'all how this is adjusted. Alright, so this is the tool, right? So we've got two sets of handles, right, that can spin independently of one another if need be, but it's not really needed. It's got a brass shim on the inside that goes all the way through, and you see we've got some lugs on the side here, and then we've got a spot for a lug here in the middle. If we sit here and we look at our scope, let me try to move this around without hitting the computer. You'll see we've got places for lugs to lock in, and we've got a lug here in the center, right? And that is really and truly how it is set. So once again, you've got elevation and windage. I make sure everything is at 0 before I started. And I've got this fairly close. What I tell everybody is, you know, with any scope, you're going to have to adjust it slightly on your own. But what I'm going to do here is just set it up so you can kind of see. So it fits in just like that, and if the cat quits meowing, we can probably hear it move. No. No. So I'm just trying to move it just a little bit. And yeah, it's a very faint sound. I doubt you're going to be able to hear it. So anyways, but like I said, I'm going to load this up with a couple of rounds, go out and test fire it. It should fire just fine and dandy, but I always test fire everything just to be on the safe side. All right, so we've got her here, got everything mounted. Now, one bad thing about having it mounted is you lose access to the stripper clip guides, right? So normally 5 rounds on the stripper clip would go right up here in this cutout groove for that, and I can show that if need be. And yeah, you just charge. Now, some did go as far as to say that they removed the magazine. I've never have seen official documentation from the British, Canadian, New Zealand, Australian, even India, that removed the magazine and loaded the magazine and loaded the magazine into the gun. But without further ado, let's actually shoot this thing. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to take it in, I'm going to clean it, and yeah, that'll be about it. Alright, so we're back in, got everything nice and cleaned up. But this is what I was talking about with the charging bridge, right? So you would be issued ammunition in 5-round stripper clips, much like this. Pay attention to the orientation. Then it would just sit in like so. Then you would grab around and push down, which I'm not going to do with these, right? But you would basically push everything down, and then the clip would just come right out. Mauser did this, we did it, the Swiss did it, a lot of people did it. The things that were different was just how they were made. So this is more of a encapsulated, right, clip, where others, it would honestly just cut off all of this front portion that I'm holding on to, and we just have that back little bulged area, right? And something else that I didn't notice until I was actually firing it, but you saw where I was kind of moving a little slow, like it was almost stuck, right? That wasn't so much that. I just know that I'm not used to having the scope up here, and I was really worried about hitting it with my hand or something else. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. If this were mine and I was putting a lot more through her, that would go away fairly quickly, I believe. But yeah, that is it. So once again, if you have, if you're like this customer and have, some failing eyes and that kind of thing, and you're looking at getting one of these, I know there's several companies that make them. No, I don't know if one company's better than the other, right? I'm not even 100% sure where he got this one. I feel like it came from Sarco, but once again, I didn't order it, so I don't know. But yeah, if this is something that you want to do, please, 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 do not do this on your own, right? Like I said, carbide bits work great, and I'm actually going to go out and buy some better taps than the ones that they offer for this, because me personally, I'm going to do some research on what other calibers I can use besides 303 British, because I have several of those. But see if I might be able to find a receiver that's in good shape with a bolt that's in good shape, and maybe build something in the future that's just different, but still keep with a rimmed cartridge. Who knows? I might do one in 30-30. And then get the scope and everything mounted up, put it in a wood stock, right? Like it is in 303, but I will clearly stamp somewhere on the side of the receiver 30-30 or whatever I decide to use. So, yeah. But anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed this little video. I have really enjoyed making it. I knew it took me quite a while to get everything set up and done and that kind of thing, because we had some equipment failures. But yeah, this thing is just beautiful, right? And these Enfields are honestly one of my absolute favorite Milsurgs, right? Because they have all kinds of attachments and things of that nature, and things that can be done with them, so on and so forth. I just really and truly do enjoy it so much. But this one of course is missing a sling, but which you can get a sling. You know what else it's really missing? Because we fired 3 rounds. I wonder if those little Nazi bastards are still coming. Anyways, this is a joke. Y'all have fun.